Hello, and welcome to the online PMDB training. Today we're going to be talking about the Actual Labor vs. Budget tab. Let's begin the training. From the home page, select the tab that says Actual Labor vs. Budget. From this tab, we'll be able to query labor records from FAMUS and the JOA and be able to compare them side by side. That is, we'll be able to perform a budget versus actual comparison. Let's go ahead and select a job order and run a query. To begin, select the job order text box. Then go ahead and enter your job order. I'm going to use 7537A. Note that this field is not case sensitive. Now go ahead and take a look at the date fields on top. You'll notice that there are two fields. The left field corresponds with the start date, and the right field corresponds with the end date. Now you can see that there are default values already input for us. The left date, or the start date for us, that's the default, is 7/1/1990. That's the earliest record that we'll have in our time file. Now on the right side, we'll have the latest date through which the time card records have been processed. In this case, it just happens to be 9/16/2011. So essentially, if I don't change these dates, what I'm looking for is project-to-date data. Now, of course, if you want to change the dates to get, say, just fiscal year 12, you can simply change the left date. But in this query, I just want to look for project to date, so I'm not going to change it. Now to go ahead and submit our query, simply click the search button. And you can see the results of our query are returned below in a grid view object. Now notice that just up and to the right, we can see the totals for our query. Now notice that there is no FAMUS project code or funding source code returned in the default view of our grid view. Now if we want to change that, we can select the Group by Project and Fund checkbox and click the search button. And now you can see that our grid view object has both a funding source field and a project field. Now one of the best new features of the new PMDB is the ability to export our data to Excel. And to do so is just a simple click of a button. So let's go ahead and click the Export button. Click the Save button. And type in a file name of your choice. Click Save, and then Close. And then fast forwarding, I've gone ahead and opened up the Excel file, and you can see that all the data has been exported successfully. Now if you want to sort the data, you can simply click the header of one of the fields for the grid view object. Let's go ahead and select the Activity Description header. And if you want to switch the sort direction, you can simply click that header again. Now if we want to further filter the results of our query, we can mix and match JOA attributes and FAMUS attributes. For instance, let's go ahead and add in a funding source code. To do so, select the funding source text box. Now in this field you can enter a fund type, a fund, or a sub-fund, or even a partial funding code. Just make sure you enter it as one continuous string with no spaces between the different fund structures. So you'll see that in this case I'm using a sub-fund with no spaces at all. Now let's go ahead and add in a project code. And to do so, first select the project detail text box. Now go ahead and type in your project code. And just as before, make sure you enter this as one continuous string. You can go from project level 1 all the way down to project level 4, or the task level. But again, we want no spaces between the different project levels. Now we're ready to resubmit our query with the new search filters. So let's go ahead and hit the search button. And you can see the results of our new query are returned below in the grid view object. Now let's go ahead and compare these numbers to what we see in FAMUS. And we can see that the FAMUS data agrees with the PMDB data. Now if we want to see the details behind any of the labor expenditures, we can simply click on the hyperlink. And this will bring us over to the Time Records by FPS and FAMUS Attributes tab. And below we can see the details for the labor expenditures. Now if we want to go back to our previous query, just simply click on the Actual Labor vs. Budget tab. And you can see that this brings us back to the results of our previous query. Now another option that we have on this tab is to see the overruns. And by definition, an overrun is where the labor expenditure is greater than the budgeted expenditures. So essentially what we expect to see is all remaining balances in the red. So go ahead and select the Overruns checkbox, and then click the search button. And you can see that we're left with only those records that have a negative remaining balance, or that is where the labor expenditure is greater than the budgeted expenditure. Well, that's the end of our training video. Thanks for watching.